Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another 45 show. I hope everyone is doing well. Good morning, Vicious. Good morning. Oh, SV. Stefan is already on the chat because Stefan is coming on today to talk to us about something super nifty, and I'm really excited about it. You can hear it, the sound of my voice. I'm excited, definitely excited. But again, I hope everyone's doing well considering the circumstances, and you're staying safe and healthy. Apparently, COVID is almost behind us because in the US they're lifting measures and mandates left, right, and center. So we're entering a new era of adventure, I think. Definitely, I don't know how at ease I will be with that, but at the same time, we have to we have to change and adjust. So stay safe, everyone. Right, couple of announcements. We have some news from the Azure Active Directory Microsoft Identity world. So let me share my screen and go to the announcements. The very first one is about the new recommendations that we have added to Azure Active Directory. They are in public preview and they should be enabled for everyone. These recommendations will allow you to, in effect, tweak and fix your Azure Active Directory and optimize it, like remembering MFA configurations, turning off per user MFA, integrating eligible SAS or SaaS applications with Azure Active Directory in a more secure manner, and migrating eligible applications from ADFS. God, ADFS is still around. We need to move people off it at some point. And then finally, migrating eligible users from using SMS to Microsoft Authenticator. This is very big because SMS is probably the weakest MFA of all. So being able to migrate them is very important. So that's the first bit of news. And then the second one is around what did we announce? We announced custom roles for application management. Up until this point, if you wanted your admins to manage your applications, you had to give them owner roles across the whole thing. Now you can create custom roles that don't require admin consent or admin rights to the applications, and that's very exciting. And that allows to delegate admins without them being owners, delegating permissions. And these custom roles are available for you through RBAC now. More secure, and you have least privilege, which is great. And there will be more announcements coming in the coming weeks, which I cannot disclose, I'm afraid, unless you're part of the NDA community. And if that's the case, then you already know them. In other words, I have been messing with Python for the first part of the week, and then the second part of the week, I decided to be stupidly adventure and dive into Kubernetes. I think I'm like 5 years late into Kubernetes. So it's an interesting journey. But I'm doing that because I'm speaking at a fantastic event that our very good friend Lila is organizing, and I want to be there. And I want to be showcasing Kubernetes with Azure Active Directory and all the new capabilities that we have added, especially the Azure Active Directory Workload Identity Federation, which means that you get the ability to authenticate against Azure Active Directory, even when you're not running against Azure, if you're not running on Azure, so AWS, on-prem, Google Cloud. And I want to showcase how you can leverage Azure Active Directory to build more secure applications. That event is on the 30th. I need to record a video today, apparently, to promote it. But you heard it here first. So I hope to see you all on the 30th of March. Code with Sean is here. AKS is awesome. I don't know about that. Like, I've been installing so many tools. I install Kind and Kubernetes and Docker and WSL2 and dude, it's endless. And now I need to learn all the commands, and then I need to learn how to create the clusters locally and run them and deploy them. So from that perspective, it's a steep learning curve. And I've seen some diagrams around Kubernetes, and damn, these diagrams are complex. So I'm trying to do the minimum necessary work to allow me to run a Kubernetes cluster on my local environment with a few APIs and the front end, all secure with Azure Active Directory. And I'll probably document my journey. But I also worked on my Python library for Fast API, which I realized had some issues and bugs. Well, yeah, it did not handle application permissions. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I think I've missed like half of the ability to authenticate apps against the API. So that was it. And today, I will not be coding myself. I've brought one of our friends and loyal viewers and one of the awesome MVPs that we have. I hope he's still an MVP to show us a nifty tool that he wrote about protecting secrets, client credentials with Azure Key Vault. But he hasn't done it in the traditional way that we do, the boring way. He's done it in the exciting way, and I'm going to bring him on to show you how he's done it. Hello. Let me take my screen off so we can see you full on. Stephen, how are you?
Hi, Christos. I'm good.
You're good. What's the time in your side of the world?
It's 5 in the evening.
Cool. Very nice to have you, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Time.
Thanks for that. You're still an MVP, right?
I'm not yet an MVP.
Well, you should be an MVP then.
Hey,
Bruce. Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought you were part of our MVP community.
No, I just ask complicated questions to the Azure AD team.
Yeah. I mean, every question to the Azure AD team is complicated these days, but I get it. I mean, hopefully you can apply for an MVP. Have you applied ever for MVP?
No, you have to be recommended by someone.
You can also self-submit. I used to self-submit myself all the time, and then it didn't happen. Then somebody recommended me. We can definitely fix that in the coming months. So
it's in the ambitions.
It's in the ambitions. 1 year, I think it was like 2015. I said I want to be an MVP. Like that was my goal for the year. And then I realized that you can't really be an MVP by yourself. You have to help the community. You have to be out there, and you have to be referred for MVP. Huh? Yeah. Oh, you have to be referred by an MVP or an MS employee. And I did get recommended by a very good friend, and that's how I got my MVP title, which was only for 2 months because I joined Microsoft afterwards. So.
And if you join Microsoft, you leave your.
Yeah, you have to leave it behind you. I mean, it's no point, right? Hey, Yanisku, and hey, Bruce. I got an Azure Connect to have fun with. You got it now? You just bought it, Bruce? Like, are you not late by 3-4 years on that? Yeah, our self-submit is no longer an option. Hey, Roman, what's up? All good here. Right. So, Stephan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and why you're on the show today. Why do we invite you?
I'm a software developer for 15 years now, I think. I work at a company where we sync a lot of stuff to Azure, Office 365. I think weekly we sync like 4 million calendar items to Office 365 for all our customers.
4 million items.
Yeah.
That API must be chock full of requests. I suspect it's all automated. Please tell me it's all automated.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Sankifi, who is a fellow Dutch person.
Yeah, I'm Dutch.
Always good to see. Yes. So you're in. Whereabouts are you based? Like I know it's.
I'm in the south of the Netherlands.
Okay. Are you gonna be there for Tekorama?
Probably.
We're gonna meet in person.
Really?
Yes.
We should.
Yes, that will be my first flight to Europe in 2 years and my first event in person in 2 years. So hopefully, if all goes well and the world doesn't turn upside down due to lifting the restrictions and everybody going maskless or whatever, I should be there. I got 2 sessions accepted, which I'm super excited about. And Tekorama is always a fantastic event. And I get to meet awesome people like you in person. That's great.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Are you speaking or are you just attending?
Attending.
You should submit. It's an awesome conference. Next time. I mean, like you could come and show us what you're showing, what you will show today, because it is pretty cool building something like that. Nice. So you're working mainly with Azure Active Directory and M365 these days, yeah?
Yeah.
All in .NET?
All in .NET Core, and we just migrated all our applications to .NET 6.
Oh, how did that go? How did the migration go?
Edit the project file and it's done.
Yeah.
It was really easy.
It was easy, right? Although there are a couple of changes, like you have minimal APIs now, which were not supported in .NET 5, but you're not rewriting that, I guess.
No, and I'm not really liking it. Just give me the startup folder back.
Yeah, people are split about minimal APIs, but I like them because they remind me Node or Python, but at the same time, they're so out there, they're so different to traditional .NET building and stuff that, yeah, I see what you're saying, especially if you're building enterprise apps that have a lot of code. Minimal APIs don't really make that sense. You start quickly to see that doesn't scale well, and you need to start splitting things out, right?
But the application that I'm gonna demo today is using the minimal API.
I don't like them, but I build it with minimal APIs. I love that. You know, getting out of your comfort zone is always great. So tell us
Yeah,
what have you done and what are we building today? Because as I said, I'm super excited and people should know about this.
I have built a small application. Maybe you can share my screen.
Yes, I can share the screen. Absolutely. There you go.
It's a small .NET Core 6 API,
Okay.
which has some endpoints where you can request an access token using client certificates.
Okay.
That doesn't sound very interesting, but normally if you use client certificates,
Yes.
all the samples on the internet are about using the secret client with the Key Vault,
Yes.
downloading the certificate to the application and use it in the Mazel.net
Yes.
library with client credentials, and then it just adds a certificate. But there's a problem with that because the certificate is downloadable by the application and also by maybe a malicious actor.
So man-in-the-middle attacks, or somebody that has access to your machine can also take that certificate and reuse it.
Yeah, and if it goes undetected that the certificate is stolen, they might have access for a year to your client application.
Yes.
And you don't want that. So I figured, how does the client credentials, how do they work? It's actually using the certificate to sign a JWT token, GWT, about the client, and that is sent to Azure instead of a client secret. But the signing can also be done in the Key Vault, and that is what seems really complex, and where I think people can have some help with. So normally, if you want to request an access token, you send a request to login.microsoftonline.com, depending if you set it up correctly. And it ends at OAuth token.
Yes.
You need a client ID. You need a client secret. This can also be stolen.
Yes.
It's in a variable, so it's not shown on the screen.
We've seen it all over the place. It can be environmental variables, it can be in files, it can be in config files, it can be everywhere.
They can all be stolen.
Exactly. It's a username and password in effect that you're living around lying, and then if anybody gets access to your machine, they can get those usernames and passwords and request a token as well. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so this would normally allow me to request a token, and
which you did, awesome.
Which it did, and it shows us a token. But yeah, you need the client secret, and that can be stolen.
Yes.
So I use this tool, Somnia. It's an alternative to Postman, but I like it better because you can link requests. You can chain requests.
Very nice.
So let's do the same for with my Key Vault proxy, which is a .NET tool, so everybody can install it with one line on the command line and then run it as a .NET tool.
Yep.
I'll show you in a minute.
So at this point, I have a question. The
Yeah.
big difference between this one and the traditional service principal and certificate is that for a large team, if they want to all develop against Azure Active Directory and authenticate and get a token with that service principal, they would need to install that certificate on their local machines, which means that for
Yes.
15 people, they all need to install it. In some cases, you might not have the privileges to install that certificate on your machine, right? Imagine you have to have admin privilege or elevated privileges, and not everyone in the corporate environment can do that, which means that you have to send an IT request and somebody has to come in. And imagine if you have 3 or 4 environments where you have different certificates, and now the problem becomes, it scales up, it becomes a much bigger issue. This tool allows you to not have anything installed on your machine other than the .NET tool.
Yeah, because you have access to the Key Vault with your current user account. And in Azure, you can just, in Visual Studio, you can sign in with it. You can use it on the command line.
Mm-hmm.
And if you signed in any of those tools, so Azure CLI, Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio, you can use those credentials to authenticate against the Key Vault.
Nice.
That also means that you would only need one certificate for the entire application. And if somebody leaves the team, you can just revoke their access to the Key Vault and they won't have access anymore. In the old situation, you would either need a certificate per developer to be able to revoke it, or give all the developers a new certificate.
Yes, exactly. That's absolutely right.
And that's a pretty big hassle.
So the important thing here is that this is for local development, right? This is not for... And then this acquires a token and passes it back to the application. How would that translate in production? So once you leave your local environment and you move to Azure, do you have feature flags that say, now that I'm running on Azure, I'm going to use a different way to authenticate and acquire an access token?
This is just an API. It also has a Swagger documentation where you can request the same token for the same application, but not have access to the certificate. Only have access to the Key Vault.
Yes, correct.
If you would do this in production, you would set up a managed identity for the application. You give the application access to the Key Vault, with only the sign permission. It's under cryptography, keys cryptography, because you won't need to download the secret, the certificate.
Correct.
And if you go even further, you can also mark it as not exportable. And that means that not even the one who created the certificate can be in possession of the certificate.
Sweet. That's very nice.
It's generated in the Key Vault and it will stay there until you delete the Key Vault.
Sounds good. Right. I have more questions, but I'll let you carry on because it's always exciting.
So we're gonna request a certificate. You just need the client ID, which was also needed when you request something, when you request tokens from Azure.
Correct.
You need the tenant ID, which is also needed when you ask the token in Azure. Scopes also needed on both sides, and then it changes. You need to specify the URL of the Key Vault, and you need to specify the name of the certificate.
Is there any reason why you have the .default for your scopes instead of using individual scopes?
Because I'm using the client credentials here, and then you
it's
need
your
to
API.
request.
It's your API that asks for that. Gotcha.
So when I do this, I'm not sure if my other screen is still there. Wait. I was hoping that I could switch more easily.
And while you're
So
doing that, there's a question on the Microsoft Developer Channel. They say, do you handle security yourself or someone else does the penetration tests for you in your company? That's from Roman.
now we hire people to do that, to make sure that we're not liable in that case.
Also, you need to be impartial, right? Because when you work for a company, you know quite a few things that external people will not know. And you have a very specific bias about what you can and cannot do and what you should be targeting. Whereas an external penetration tester will come in with a very different perspective and they will try
Yeah.
different things that you wouldn't otherwise. And
Yeah.
therefore, it's always recommended that you hire someone else to do the penetration testing. Also, they are professionals. So unless you're doing it as your job, it's very hard to do penetration testing yourself. However, being security aware as a developer is very important. Things like what we're discussing today, eliminating secrets is very important from your applications because that can be an attack vector. Internet employees can't do the proper black box testing. Thanks for the answer. Well, internal employees can't do the proper black box testing. Yeah, that's right. I mean, internal employees will be super weird to testing their own environment and then signing off and saying we're secure.
Recently, I discovered that in Azure, if you're using the client credentials, you can get a valid token even if your application isn't granted specific access to your application.
That's right.
That's why you always have to check the roles.
Yes.
I didn't know that before, and it was hard to find.
Yep.
But I showed the application where I'm gonna request a token. I'm gonna put a breakpoint in here.
Okay. So this is not is this your API or is this your?
This is the API.
This is the tool. Cool.
Yeah, this is the tool. It's .NET Core 6 is just a regular endpoint. This is the endpoint.
Yep.
And there are several. So it comes here. Oh,
so my you have to share the other screen.
Oh, my screen went away.
All by itself?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't press anything. So this is where the request comes in.
We have let me share. Cool.
We have the client. We have the client ID. This probably looks familiar.
Yes.
We need the tenant ID to specify which authority it's going to use.
Yep.
And this with Key Vault certificate is an extension we built on the confidential client application builder. So this is
because I was going to say I haven't seen this before. Cool.
No, this is an extension we built, and that you can also use if you want to use the same principle in production.
Very nice.
It needs the tenant ID, client ID, the Key Vault
URI. Yep.
Yeah. The certificate name, and here is the magic where it would normally use the managed identity.
Yes.
What this actually does is it checks the environment for credentials. Then it tries to use the managed identity ways for, I think. And then it tries to do the credentials in Visual Studio Code, and Azure CLI.
And PowerShell. And then at the end, it also has an interactive that you need to switch on automatically.
Yes, and that is switched on here. So if none of the previous were allowing access, then it would do interactive authentication.
Yes. So Roman is asking, what is this? Doesn't look like the casual Visual Studio Code. It's not Visual Studio Code. It's the Visual Studio, like the whole Visual Studio, the big thing.
But it's .NET Core, so you can run the same in Visual Studio Code as well.
Yes, or any other tool, like Rider, if you like that.
So I jumped to with Key Vault certificate because that's the extension we built.
Yeah.
And it actually just calls with assertion and then tries to generate the assertion for you.
Yep.
And this is just yeah, it's a JOT with the signed with the certificate.
Yes.
So I want to jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it needs to generate some claims.
Yep.
So we can jump into those. This is specified at the website, but it's actually, you need these claims in the JOT
Yep.
to do the authentication. So the audience is the
The API.
no, it's the login.microsoft online.
Oh yeah, okay.
And yeah, you have to tell how long it's valid for. In this case, we just pick now plus, I think it's 1 minute or 5 minutes. This is all documented on the website. It was really hard to find, but I found it eventually. So generate claims.
Yep.
This is the header,
Mm-hmm.
and you need the
key ID. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is the base 46 hash of the key. So it's not. Yeah, you have to do some encoding to get the right value.
Yep.
That would be an improvement if this value would be available in the key vault for each certificate. But
that would be. But they change. So the problem there will be that.
No, but I mean, if you create a new certificate in the key vault, it only shows the normal encoded hash of the certificate, and it doesn't show the base 46 URL encoded hash.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that will be an improvement.
Yeah. So you have an unsigned token eventually. You have to encode it. And then, where is it? Get signed token.
Yep.
Get signed token with Key Vault. So here, this is called automatically with the token credential. That is the default client credentials.
Yep.
And then this is where the real magic happens. It creates a new cryptography client. This is in the
Azure Key Vault namespace or the security cryptography?
The Azure Key Vault. Azure Security Key Vault keys cryptography.
Yep.
And it says, hey, I have this data, namely the unsigned token.
Please sign it for me.
Can you please sign it? And that results in
the
signature, and you take the unsigned token and append the signature.
Yeah.
And then you have your client assertion that is totally protected because you have no access to this actual certificate because the signing happens in the cloud. And this is what you send to Azure, and then you get back an access token.
Yeah, so that's very important. The fact that everything happens outside your machine and you don't have access to it. Like even if somebody were to get access to the memory dump and try to get the information, they wouldn't be able to do so because it all happens in the cloud. I wrote a very similar blog post recently about how you can encrypt and decrypt data in the cloud using Key Vault, which is very similar to signing and unsigning keys. Exactly the same. You do everything in the cloud, and therefore your applications don't risk being compromised by having sensitive information or sensitive processing happening in code.
Yeah. So we don't want that, and that's why we built this. And I'm gonna set another breakpoint so we can actually see the this part.
Yeah.
So we go here. I press continue. Wait a little bit.
We need to change monitors. Screen... Yeah, it seems like every time you debug, your screen dies.
Oh no!
Yeah, we found a bug. We found a bug with I think RIS3. This is RIS3 probably crashing. I don't know why.
So it came here.
Uh-huh.
We have the unsigned token,
Yep.
and now it's gonna do
The signing.
yeah.
I wonder if it's gonna crash again. No, it didn't. Oh, it did crash.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, maybe it's because I press continue. Is there a... No, I don't know.
Can you press F10 instead of continue or F11 and see what happens? Because I'm curious.
Yeah.
I wonder if but I suspect that Visual Studio is crashing Restream. That's very weird. We haven't had that before. Right, so that's already been signed and it's returned
Yeah,
from
so I get the
Key Vault.
signed result, and
Yep.
the signed result is actually signature.
Uh-huh.
It's a byte array. You have to encode the byte array with base 46 URL encode, and then you have the token that you can use for doing the request to the Azure AD.
Yes, to get
So-
the access token. So you have an authenticated context that you can go to Azure Active Directory to request an access token.
Yeah.
Very nice. So may the Key Vault be secure as possible, says Yanisku. Yeah, Key Vault is the anchor point here to make everything secure. So I'm curious to see how this looks from an application perspective. So let's say I'm building a web app or something else. How would that be used in that context, like this tool?
Yeah, in a web application, this tool is mainly built for local development because
Yes, that's right.
it uses the credentials from the user to log into Azure.
Yes.
But as mentioned, this part is actually where you request the token,
Correct.
and this is familiar to everybody. We added this extension. It's not really big, but it's also available on NuGet. So if you don't want to build it yourself,
Ooh, nice.
take this NuGet extension. You have this option, and you can use this to request your token.
So all the code that you showed us before, what happens behind the scenes, is hidden behind the extension, and therefore, as long as you download the NuGet package and add the extension here, reference the namespace, then you should be able to just pass the token ID, client ID, and scope, I guess. Can you scroll to the right so we can see what the other parameters are? Token requests, the Key Vault URI, the certificate name, which you need to have a certificate, so you need to create your own certificate. And I think at the end, what's the last thing at the end? Oh, the credentials.
The scope is here.
The scope is there, yeah.
So
Cool.
this is just the builder, so it's an extension for the builder.
Yeah.
And when you call this, so acquire token from client, it automatically calls the async stuff that is behind this extension.
Very nice.
And it's all asynchronous, so you don't have to worry about that it's doing something synchronous in the background.
No blocking. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So how do you install this tool? If I were to, so this is running as an API, right? This whole code is running as an API somewhere in the background.
I'm gonna try to share another screen.
Go for it.
Yeah. I have this page created where it's on my blog. It's svrooij.io. I'm gonna just put the link in the chat.
Is that how you pronounce it, SV Roy?
Yeah, it's Stephan Van Rooij, and it's called like 2 centuries ago, people in the Netherlands were allowed to pick their own last name, and
how awesome is that?
Most people just said Van. That means from. And my ancestors were from a place that you call Roy. So that's how it appeared.
Yeah.
The link
I was
is
pronouncing it very different in my mind. I'm glad I did not pronounce it out loud.
The link is in the chat.
Yes.
Here you have earlier blog post of me where I describe the application I just built.
Yes.
There's also a link to the NuGet. There are also some other resources.
Yep.
to how this works.
Yes.
So the client assertions in how they work in a muscle. So client. Oh, sorry. The client assertions in muscle are here.
Yeah.
Um,
So muscle is MSAL. It took a while
yeah,
for me
MSAL.
to. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's fine.
And I also found that there was something wrong with this page. So
Oh, check that
recently
out.
I
Very nice.
made some improvements to it. Yeah, this page you can find all the information that that we talked about.
Thanks for saying that.
There's also the link to the GitHub repository where you can find all the source of the proxy, because this is something security minded.
Mhm.
So don't trust my word for it. Check out the code and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you can install it with .NET command, right?
Yeah. So if I go here, securing during development, this explains it a lot more. It's this command, and then
Yes.
you start it up with a az.kv of dash proxy.
Yes.
And then you have the proxy running, and there's also Swagger documentation, which is automatically generated.
Mm-hmm.
So the API documentation is there if you want to check out how it works.
So I could create a Python API or a Node API or a Node app, and then use this tool locally to be able to still get the access token through that API, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice.
You could even run this proxy and use it to get a token for the Graph API from PowerShell, for instance. And then
nice.
your PowerShell script doesn't need any credentials because it uses the credentials from the logged in user. And that would make your PowerShell scripts, especially if you're doing admin stuff, a lot more secure.
Cool. That really helps with quite a few scenarios. Like if you want to quickly get an access token to something and you don't want to create your own app, for example, you can use this tool to grab any access token.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we build it, because we are in the business of building multi-tenant applications.
Yep.
Multi-tenant applications is the one thing where you cannot use managed identities, because we always prefer managed identities instead of
yet.
Ooh.
Yet. I think that this is a highly requested item, and I know that the team is working on that. We don't really have a time frame to mention, but being able to use a managed identity in a multi-tenant environment is key for the success of many ISVs and applications out there. So just rest assured that we are working on that.
Yeah, but this would circumvent the problem, because you can use a managed identity to the Key Vault and then use the certificate in the Key Vault to get an access token for your multi-tenant app.
Exactly.
That's what we do, and we figured security is important, so we want to share this with the world. That's why we open sourced it and made it available to everybody as a .NET tool.
So if your application on the local environment, so let's say again, I have a web app that needs to grab an access token to get some data, right? If my local development relies on this tool that you have, what happens when we go into production? Do we still need to run this API tool somewhere in production to be able to grab the keys?
No, you would pick the NuGet package and then use the with Key Vault certificate extension on the confidential client application builder.
Oh, I see.
So this is purely to make a developer life easy and to be able to get an access token to use in Insomnia or in Postman or in PowerShell or just in your browser if you want to test something out.
Right. Okay.
Do you want me to show the chaining of the results in Insomnia, because that's quite a nice feature?
Absolutely, yes. Go ahead.
If you
New tools, always fun. I tend to use Thunder Client, which is a VS Code extension for
Oh,
REST
yeah.
APIs, but it doesn't do chaining. Let me share your screen again.
Yeah. So we requested a token.
Uh-huh.
It gets a token. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
It's fine.
it's about to happen. I was waiting too long, I think.
Oh, yeah, because you send a request and then it just timed out after way too
Yeah.
long.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
taking sweet time.
Yeah,
Is there a
that's
warp up?
because it's trying all those authentication methods in the
Yes.
default Azure credentials before it actually finds the one it can use.
So that's why I always like to be more explicit with my credentials, and I use chain token
Yeah.
credential. And then
Yeah.
when I develop locally, I say, always go to the CLI because that's the main tool I use. Or you can
Yeah,
say
but-
Visual Studio Code, right? Or Visual Studio. But you don't know if every developer will have the same config settings. That's right.
No, and this is a .NET tool, and I'm not sure how to parse how to make it configurable for the developer that is using this .NET tool, because the .NET tool starts a ASP.NET
That's
Core
right.
application, and I'm not sure how the config part works. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
send us a pull request if you figure it out.
It is open source after all.
Yeah, but it's here it can request a token. This is a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to this request.
Yep.
It has no authentication.
Yep.
It wants to request the just a user.
Yes.
I press send and it says access token is empty.
Correct.
So I go to out. I select bearer token.
Uh-huh.
And you select this, and then there's the magic button combination. You press Control space.
Oh.
And you can say
select the previous request.
Use a body attribute from some other response.
Oh, nice.
So I click this. Then you need to configure it. So I
it has
select
a UI. That's nice.
So I select the correct request.
Yes.
And I say
check that out.
You can even say this. So when expired, and you say this token is probably valid for so many seconds.
Uh-huh.
Just pick something. Or for the demo, I'm going to put it to 60. If I now press send,
it will do the two requests back to back?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the one request to the key vault takes a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
damn, that's a long time.
No, it was hanging on my breakpoint. But now it has a token, and if I press this again, then you see it's much faster because it says that this is just now. And if we go over the expiration time, it will automatically do a new request for the access token.
Look at that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's really a nice way to handle the authentication part.
Yes, because you don't want to be requesting that every single time you do requests. I suspect that if you're testing a lot of queries or sending a lot of requests to the Azure AD, you want to minimize that. Yeah. Or any API for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the sake of the demonstration, I also added the get the token from Azure with the regular client secret, and then it will. This is 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So if I go to this one, and it's set to 60.
Yes.
So if I do this, it did the request. And you can also see that this one is also
just executed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. That was a nifty tool.
Key Vault proxy and Insomnia as a tool to test your REST API.
So everybody can find all the information in the post that you put in the chat, right? That's the main one. Let me just highlight it as well. And for people that are watching on YouTube, I will put the link right below so they can go and read and learn about it. It's available today. It's open source. You can send a pull request if you have any questions or queries. I suspect that people should be raising issues on the GitHub repo if they have any problems, right?
Yeah, of
Cool.
course. Or
And
send me a message on Twitter.
or send a message on Twitter. The information is down below. That's great because we always struggle. Like I definitely struggle. No, I don't want that. I always struggle when I have to test APIs. I have to create clients, like some kind of a client. And usually it's a service principal I have to create and pass the credentials into my request configuration, use OAuth to authenticate, and then call the API. This tool will help a lot with not having to do that. I still need to create a certificate, but it will be a one-off. And then in a year, when the certificate expires, I need to just renew the certificate.
Yeah.
But that's great, man. Thanks for showing us that. Thanks for coming on the show and showing it. I definitely learned quite a few things. And I wonder what you're going to build next.
I'm really curious to the managed identities for multi-tenant apps.
Yeah. See, if you were in the MVP community, you would know that this is being discussed. But we'll send a recommendation your way and see what happens. Bruce Lane is saying, thanks for sharing. Absolutely, I would say download and test today. I'll probably download this week and test it once I get over my Kubernetes learning. But again, it's great to learn from the community. I saw, I think you put it on Twitter the other day. I'm like, man, this is definitely interesting. We need to bring you on the show. And I'm really glad that I reached out because this will help a lot of people.
We spoke only about the one endpoint where you use the certificate from the Key Vault.
Yeah.
To make developer life easy, there are also 2 endpoints where you can use a certificate from the current user store or from the local computer store.
Yeah.
And normally you cannot do client credentials in Insomnia, Postman, or PowerShell. And with this proxy, you can use those as well. But mind you, they are not as secure as having the certificate in the Key Vault.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I want to avoid. Also, it doesn't scale well because if you have 100 people trying to use that approach, then they have to install the certificate on the local machine and somebody has to do it for them usually. And it's not good. Whereas this tool does it for you. One certificate for everyone. Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it. That's fantastic. I appreciate you coming.
Any other questions about this tool?
I don't think we have any other questions. People seem to be excited about you sharing that in the chat. And we will definitely share the information on the YouTube video so people can find all the links below. And we'll probably have you back here again to show us what you build next.
Probably.
Cool. And with that, I think we are done with the show today. We will see you all next week. I think I'm still driving solo, not everyone. Look at the matrix behind him. All the cool stuff. I've got just a boring LED side. We got me solo. I think Shannon is still away on maternity, enjoying her first few weeks with the baby. And I am trying to keep the lights on. So bear with me. I think next week somebody asked for us to do JavaScript or TypeScript with Azure Functions and validating JWT tokens or looking at the claims because they wanted to do that with EasyAuth. So probably that's what we're going to crack on next week. So someone's saying, sorry for being late. Can I add a certificate? Oh, someone's asking, can I add a certificate to an app service so my web app can access the Key Vault?
In that case, Siegfried, I would set up a managed identity for the app service and give the access to the web app in the Key Vault, like with the managed identity.
Exactly.
This is especially built for this use case.
You should not be installing, I don't think you can even install a certificate on an app service that you can use for purposes like this. I don't think there's a certificate store on the app service. There's only a certificate store for SSL TLS. But if I remember correctly, and I don't know if that's changed, you can only use that certificate.
Normally you cannot access the certificates in the TLS store. But if you add something to the environment variables, you can specify which certificates by hash are available to the application. And you could use those for signing stuff as well.
Yeah, but if Key Vault is doing it for you, you get
Yeah.
auditing, you get better security, you get notifications about expiring and rolling keys and what have you. So I would highly recommend using a Advanced Identity with Key Vault instead. And then because Advanced Identity is already authenticating behind the scenes for you, also you can apply RBAC, right? Whereas if you're using the local store, then that certificate can probably do a lot more damage. So I would say Advanced Identities with RBAC in Key Vault, and you're done. And Bruce Lane is super excited about doing TypeScript next week, so I need to brush off my TypeScript. But things are moving fast. But thanks everyone for joining us this morning. It was really interesting to learn about new tools and new capabilities. I appreciate Stephan for coming and spending his time with us. And we will see you all next Tuesday. Until then, I've got a half marathon to run on Saturday, and hopefully I'll be alive to tell the tale on Tuesday with TypeScript. Thanks everyone.
Have a nice day, everybody.
Before we go, we need to raid someone. Let's see who's around. We got Lila, the best person to raid. So we'll go and see what Lila is building today. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you. Lila, I need to type it. Perfect. We will see you all on Tuesday. It takes a couple of seconds. This is always the awkward silence where you have to wait for the raid to kick off. And we're just looking around. Right, raid now on one channel, raid now on the other channel. And bye, everyone.
So now we are no longer